So I've got an interview coming up with some of the ex-Call of Duty Treyarch developers that worked on all of the zombie maps that we see today. These guys were heads of departments and were the directors of the zombies mode, and most of the things you saw in zombies, these guys had a hand in creating. These developers worked with Jason at Treyarch for many years, and they left Treyarch to go work with Jason at Deviation Games. Jason left Deviation Games, and that studio dissolved, and these guys are now working on new projects. And this will be the first time these developers get to speak in this manner and get to share their experiences with the creation of zombies. They were basically like, well, we can talk now without getting in trouble. While working at Treyarch, they had to stay behind the scenes and keep things secret, but now they're in a situation where they are more free to speak. We are going to be learning a lot of new things about zombies that we've never heard before. And they said at the end of the interview, as a finale, they're going to speak about the Hypercube KN-44 Blueprint from the Giant. I asked them, I said, you guys know about this? And they said yes. Obviously, we don't want any spoilers, but any kind of hints or ideas around it would be great. As most of you know, there is an impossible Easter egg out there that still needs to be solved, and this blueprint is at the top of the list for possibly being that Easter egg. Members of this community are working feverishly right now to try to see if this thing is something to be solved and can be solved. I do currently have some information from a head developer from Treyarch about this KN-44 blueprint, and this is even before doing this interview with these other guys. This KN-44 Hypercube blueprint is not news to some of us behind the scenes that have been working on this impossible Easter egg. It was cool to see Skype putting together the video to present it to you guys, and now we've got a lot of people interested and working on it. I personally reached out to one of the head of zombies last year to ask questions and was referred to another head developer. I asked all the very specific questions about the KN-44 and the blueprint, and then also the KN-44 that we see in the ending cutscenes and boss fights for all the characters in Black Ops 3. For example, we see it flying out of Dempsey's pod onto Ryzen, and in the gel cell with Takio on Zetsubo Noshima, and in the mech with Nikolai on Garad Kurovi, and then you can find it in a few other areas. Seeing the continual representation of this weapon, and then it also being on the blueprint, made us think that there was some great significance here. Now, with the blueprint getting a lot of attention and people thinking it's the impossible Easter egg, people are looking more into the significance of the KN-44, and it's showing up all over the place. This is the part I do have information on. I never released this information before, but now I feel like I'm absolutely obligated to. Here's that conversation. Hi. Me and one of my hunting buddies are working hard behind the scenes to try and help solve the mysteries around the KN-44 blueprint on the Giant. We never found any meaning to this image of the KN-44 assault rifle that can be assembled from bits of scrap paper on the Giant. The KN-44 also appears in many maps hidden throughout the Easter egg main quests. Is there any significance to this image or Easter egg Cipher related to the KN-44 in general? The developer responded with some personal stuff, so I blurted out, but they responded saying, but I don't think there was any real meaning behind it. More of a gag because people latched onto it. I replied, I'm not understanding the gag part, but I might have missed something that the community was talking about. They responded, I mean, people were wondering what the KN-44 meant, so we kept using it in Easter eggs with no real meaning. More like a developer in-joke than a public-facing one. So that was a big oh shit moment for me. That hit me in the gut because I was doing a lot of work on this KN-44 like a lot of us. You know, I was wondering like what's going on here. So to find out that like this is all it was, they kept using it in Easter eggs with no real meaning. The KN-44 has no meaning and it was some kind of joke. We latched onto it and they kept putting it in to join the community trend. I mean, it's kind of brilliant for them to do something like that. That's pretty smart marketing. I didn't want to give up that this was the impossible Easter egg because Jason did mention it in an interview with Dalek. He was like, hey, yeah, don't forget about that Hypercube blueprint. In case this isn't the impossible Easter egg, I do have one that could be the impossible Easter egg. I've been working on it for a long time and I was waiting to have some breakthroughs before I was presenting it as this is definitely on the table for impossible Easter egg. We've had to go through and debunk a lot of stuff in the past, so I wanted to make sure this one was concrete. Again, I'll be conducting an interview with 3 ex-zombie Treyarch devs and posting that video right after this video, and we'll let you know what they have to say about the KN-44 blueprint. Even after what that developer said, I feel like the blueprint still has a lot of potential to be the impossible Easter egg. Now let me show you this huge potential for the impossible Easter egg. It checks all the boxes in a big way. Jason said it is hidden in multiple arenas and that we were in the zone on a map before Zetsubou Noshima released. Jason did an interview with Raffles and they were talking about the release of Zetsubou. It was like about to come out and he was like, yeah, you guys have been in the zone already, which would mean that it has to be on Shadows, the Giant, or Horizon. I did an interview with the interviewer of Jason and they made a video talking about this impossible Easter egg back in 2015. I made a video about this, but that guy told me do not use any of the visuals in that video that shows Shadows. That he put all that in on his own, so just forget it.
But I would use not use the video at all for any type of information in terms of like what to decode,
Cool.
if that makes sense.
That is so cool.
Like they had no control over any of that.
So again, that leaves us with now 3 map options instead of just Shadows of Evil. So there's something on Horizon that is in multiple arenas. Some of it is hidden and for the most part has gone unnoticed by the majority of the community. It also could mimic the type of Easter egg that Jason mentions during an in-depth interview with Dalek about the impossible Easter egg. Jason, on his own, while speaking to Dalek, brings up an Easter egg that was many years old as an example that no one discovered. The cipher type was called an acrostic. It's where you take certain letters from a group of text to form a hidden message. It was the World at War profiles for the main characters. You take the first letter of each sentence for the phrase, the doctor wants the ultimate power, bastard. I'll let you listen to him bringing that up in that interview.
You know, you're the one who asked me for the World at War one.
Yeah, and that was 8 years.
How long did I hold that? That was 8 years, yeah.
And that was so simple.
Yeah.
Like looking back at it, it's frustratingly simple.
Yeah.
And
it's one of those things where it wouldn't matter if you data mined it.
Yeah.
This cipher went unfound for years. It was hidden in plain sight and completely undiscovered. Why would Jason, out of nowhere, bring this kind of cipher up while talking about the impossible Easter egg for Black Ops 3? He knew that this was an effective way to successfully hide a hidden message, and if he wanted something to go unfound for years, this could be the way to do it. Did he bring it up to hint to us that he used this same method to hide the impossible Easter egg in Black Ops 3 in plain sight? If that's the case, then we have one that could be it. If you go to Horizon, you'll notice books scattered around the map. These books were created as a group. There are 24 of them in different arenas of Horizon, and 2 of them are hidden. Most of the books can be connected to a backstory to the zombies lore, but some of them have some crazy titles and we have no idea what's going on. And shout out to Rich Killer, he's the one that came to me with these books and he said these books have a lot of backstory with each of them and he did a lot of research with them. And I'll be sharing some of what he's found, but I'll have his link down in the description. Again, a big shout out to him. You can also find the books in the Spawn, Richtofen's room, Sam's room, Maxis's room, in the hallways, control room. One of them you can only see when you go back in time with the Easter egg steps in the lab, and then one of them is locked in the safe, and that is the focal point of all of the books. No book is duplicated and each title only shows up one time. Another huge clue is that all of these books are on old gen console. In the past, that has been a big clue for us that it was an Easter egg, and we solved multiple things this way. They only ever put in what is absolutely necessary for Easter egg purposes, and I was shocked to see that these books were on old gen. I was like, no way. You go into some of these rooms and there's nothing in the room but one of these books. Sam's room is a good example of that. You go in there, there's like nothing in there, and then boom, in the center of the table is one of the books. So this means they are significant and they mean something, which is strange because some of these titles seem very vague and extremely uninteresting. Another thing I noticed, but may not be anything, is this red 115 that shows up near the German Zombie Military Manual book. This decal was manually placed from a template of numbers, and these numbers do not repeat on any other crate, on the map, and is not a part of any model as like a template and is standard. The 115 number in red was also put into Old Gen in the same location in a pretty sloppy fashion. For some reason, this red 115 was needed, and the only thing that matches in this entire room compared to current gen is the book, the 115, the perk machine, and the power switch. Everything else is completely different. One thing I noticed about these books is that they seem to be referencing zombie maps that we were going to see and we did see for Black Ops 4. Here's a list of all the books. So the top one, Tunguska Unmasked. This is one that you can only see if you go back in time in the laboratory during an Easter egg step. We believe this is referencing Call of the Dead, Tag der Toten at the end of Black Ops 4 with the big reveal of that map. We see the big secret that Call of the Dead Tag der Toten is actually on a satellite of Mars called Phobos. And what we originally knew is that it was in Siberia and on the Tunguska River. The next one is Wilson's Transuranic Nuclear Physics Handbook. This has a long trail, but it leads you back to basically Nuketown. And obviously Nuketown zombies, which we did see in Black Ops 4 as Alpha Omega. The last two maps, Lost Ghost Towns of the Old West is related to Buried, and then It Came from the Cornfield, obviously Transit. Now there was rumors of the Zombies Chronicles 2 coming to Black Ops 4, and it seemed like that got canceled, and some of those maps had to be used for DLC because the Chaos maps got canceled. I don't know if that's true, but it seems like that's the case. Whatever it is, these 4 maps that are referenced in these books were not maps that were added to the first Zombies Chronicles. So where were they? What was going to happen with them? Well, they were coming later. A few of the other books relate to Easter egg steps during the main Easter egg quest, like Mysteries of the Vril is sitting next to where you place the Vril device in the family crypt. There's one book that seems to relate to future DLC with Grog Karovi. It's called Fafnir and Sigurd, and the shield was called the Guard of Fafnir, so could relate to that. Seems about right. So the books seem to be relating to future stuff, and definitely Black Ops 4 stuff. I studied these books for a while and these titles, and I was like, man, some of these are just weird. Like, they make no sense. They got a lot of adjectives. Some are excessively long. They're even titled in a way where it's like subject, comma, and then description, which is unlike the way you would title a book. And some of the titles just made zero sense whatsoever. It seemed like they were formatted and conditioned to fit something else, maybe a cipher. There were 3 things that Jason said in that interview with Dalek that led me to thinking these books were it. One was the fact that he brought up that acrostic cipher from the World at War profiles. I mean, there is a crap load of books here, 24, with a lot of letters. You could easily work out an acrostic cipher from these. Like, why so many books? There's so many. And a lot of them seem strange and useless. He also said 2 other things in the interview, and I always just pay close attention because he does weird stuff, and he has said stuff in the past that we were able to solve things because of what he said in an interview. In this interview, he said, I am not going to tell you what this is. I am going to keep it locked in a vault. And then he also said another thing where he said, whatever the solve is, it's not going to shake the earth. I'll let you guys listen to that part of the interview.
The official statement.
You can ask me all you want. I'm going to put that away in a vault and talk to you again about it in 8 years' time.
Okay, and by then we'll be old and growing beards.
Yeah, exactly.
One of the books in the book that seems to be the focal point of this possible cipher Easter egg is in the safe or vault on Horizon. He also used an uncommon term, saying shake the earth. Normally you would say groundbreaking or something. I just thought that terminology was weird, right? Stood out to me. I know that on Horizon and only Horizon, there are multiple voice lines where the characters say shake the earth. They say it when they're using certain weapons or when like the Panzer comes down. But yeah, that stood out to me.
Yeah, I don't. Here's the thing, you know, the kind of stuff they put in doesn't shake the earth, but I think for people who enjoy those type of things, there's stuff in there.
They'll get a kick out of it.
Yeah, there's still stuff in there. Yeah.
This weapon will shake the earth and make the demons tremble.
It may mean absolutely nothing, but we have to search high and low and consider everything. So I had thought these books were the impossible Easter egg. Like there was maybe a cipher hidden within them, but I wasn't really thinking too much about the book in the safe. Like I was like, well, it's just another book in the safe, right? It's just one of the many. Is that a big deal? Yeah, it is. So the book in the safe is called John Dee, Illuminated D Resurrectionist. Like, what the actual F is that? It's not a real word. I started searching John Dee the other day because there's rumors that the ritual circles on Shadows of Evil are related to the KN-44 Blueprint Easter egg in some way. I personally know that the ritual circles on Shadows of Evil are based on John Dee's summoning circles from way back when. He would use them to summon angels and demons. This guy was wild, but he was also incredibly intelligent. He spoke like a ton of languages. He was an alchemist. He was a philosopher. He worked with Queen Elizabeth. Like, this guy was the guy to know. He was amazing. He would do occult rituals with the symbol on the left. He called it the seal of God, and he said he could talk to angels and demons through it. And the angels actually told him about a language that they spoke called Enochian. TREYARCH took that idea and made the ritual circles, and instead of using Enochian, they replaced it with Apothecon. So I'm doing my research, and I find out that this guy is a super cryptologist, and a pretty famous one. And this was after I was suspicious that these books were maybe a cipher. And then I look and see that it's his book in the safe. Like, okay. So I start looking into the ciphers that people have solved that he's done. And he does crazy stuff, like really hard stuff that's almost impossible to solve. So he'll take a plain text and then add his ciphering to it, and he'll put like periods, hyphens, commas, misspell words, like things like that. That's how people have been able to detect it. He also has signature things that he does within the ciphers to let you know that it is valid and you are on the right track. So I've been working with Cam and L King on this. Shout out to those guys. So Cam and I were watching some documentaries, and we understood that he did weird stuff with punctuation to alert you to things. So Cam asked me, he's like, do any of the books have any weird punctuation? And I go and look, and I'm like, yes, the John Dee book has a period at the end. No other book out of the 24 have a period at the end, and this is not how you title a book. You never put a period on the title of a book ever. Then L King and I were Googling, like, what the heck is D Resurrectionist? It's apparently not a word. It's completely made up, and there's definitely nothing that exists with a hyphen in it. And shout out to L King, he found this part. The only place on the planet you're going to find the word D Resurrectionist is in Black Ops 3 Zombies when you reach rank 35 before you prestige and roll over to prestige mode. It's called D Resurrectionist, and there is no hyphen in this word. Again, it's not a word. It doesn't exist. But on the book, there's a hyphen and a period that is segmenting out Resurrectionist. So why add a dash and a period into a book title about a guy that is a cryptologist and creates impossible ciphers, and then also put it in a safe, and then talk about how you're going to keep this impossible Easter egg locked up? Like, Also, reaching level 35, the D Resurrectionist, you unlock a Dark Ops calling card for zombies. The calling card has a shield on it with a wolf head and 2 swords, and then it says Special Forces Brotherhood, and I don't know what this could be related to, but we definitely see those themes on Horizon. So after watching the videos of how his stuff is solved, we decided to chart up the letters and go in order of books as we found them inside the graphics file. There's like one graphics file that has all the books on it, and we used that order. John Dee ciphers are really hard to solve, and he always puts in signature things to let you know that you are on the right track. They're very, very specific, and a lot of them are related to religious beliefs. Also, John Dee was obsessed with the significance and meaning of numbers, a lot like we are with 115 and 935. He would also do weird things in the ciphers to let you know that it was a cipher and that it was valid and that it was his. It was like his signature. The very first thing cryptologists look for when decoding his messages is 3 T's stacked on top of each other. Then they look for a 4th hidden T, and it's called the quaternary within the ternary. Ternary is a term that he used meaning a set of 3, and quaternary obviously meaning 4, but yes, this 4th T has to be hidden. If you see that, then it is validation and the seal of approval that you have a John Dee cipher. The 3 T's are called a triple tau, and it's actually a real symbol that are made up of T's, and he puts them in his ciphers, and it has religious meaning. He typically puts a triple tau at the bottom of the cipher so you know that it's valid, and then he will often have it touching something else that's really important to let you know you're on the right track. These triple T's actually represent Christ and the crucifixion, and he often puts crosses in his ciphers as well. He will identify the crosses with 2 A's capping off the center beam at the top and sometimes bottom. He will also have these crosses in triple taus, like crossing over where you need to look. Here's a really good example from a very talented cryptologist called Alexander Woe. He shows the breakdown of how he is finding the triple T's, the crosses, and everything that connects. He finds the quaternary within the ternary.
Here it is. Can we see anything catching our eye, anything interesting there? Well, straight away, perhaps we see 3 T's, the so-called triple tau. Now, remember, the triple tau is supposed to have a concealed quaternary, a 4th T, probably pointing the wrong way up. Well, that's obviously not the T that you can see at the bottom right there, because that is not a concealed T. That's not concealed within the ternary, is it? If we're looking for the 4th T, it might be somewhere above the word fourth. It might be upside down. In fact, there it obviously is.
And he felt like he had found the hidden 4th T because what was in it was significant. It was an anagram for De Vere. It was about this guy that apparently wrote Shakespeare, and Shakespeare didn't really exist or something. But anyways, you can see how complicated this can get. Also, in this video, he mentions how John Dee is obsessed with charting up letters. So most of the time you take a group of text and just chart it up just like it looks. You don't have to move anything around. And I had seen the graphics file of these books, and it showed a specific order of the books. So we used that, like I mentioned earlier. So I typed it all up in a chart and lined everything up exactly as it reads. And if you look at the bottom, there is a triple tau, 3 T's stacked on top of each other. And shout out to Cam, he's the one that pointed it out. I typed it up and gave it to him, and I was still working on stuff. And he's like, yeah, there are 3 T's at the bottom of this. Not only that, it is at the very dead bottom of this list, and that is where it's supposed to be. Then I follow it up and I notice the line connects with the 115, almost as if the 115 were the top of this hidden T. Was the red 115 that I saw on the crate next to the German military zombie manual on current gen and old gen a clue here? I don't know. Sometimes his triple tau or the 3 T's will be guiding you to the 4th T, and if you connect this up to the 115, you do get a T shape. So is this the 4th T and the quaternary and the ternary? Another thing he does is he uses double A's on top of each other to signify the top or bottom part of the center beam of a cross. And if you look above the 115, you do have a double A. If you use the 3 T's at the bottom, the 115 and the double A's, it does form the shape of a cross. And John Dee is known for doing this kind of thing in his ciphers. Also, the color of the books do matter. There are 6 sets of books, and there are 4 books in each set, and they all have different colors. To get the bottom triple tau, you have to use this set of colored books. These 4 right here. They're like kind of an orangish color. And then to get the top crossbeam and the 115 with the A's, you have to use this set of books that go together with this like light tan in the blue corners. Because I was thinking, it's like, what if someone doesn't have access to the graphic files? How would they know the order? Well, you look at the book model and notice that they are in sets and they go together. And here's what it looks like on the chart if you were to separate them out and show what the sets are and their colors. So yeah, the triple tau at the bottom with that set of books, and then the 115 and A's within that set of books. If this is a coincidence, they got so lucky to have a John Dee book and then have the signature things match up like they do in his type of ciphers. Also, this center beam is on the 9th column, and John Dee was obsessed with columns in his ciphering, and 9 was huge because it represented Christ. We're either on the right track or this is absolutely nothing. John Dee is known for double encryption. You'll put the first set of text, just lay it out as long as it goes for however many columns. And then you'll see his signature in it to let you know that this is a valid cipher to be solved. And then there will be clues to how to rechart it and how many columns you need to go, and then start like wrapping the text down. And there you can find the answer. Sometimes you'll find the answer in the first chart and you don't have to do anything. We're definitely working on recharting and trying different things, and what really stands out is this resurrectionist. It is between the hyphen and the period. It seems to be some kind of a key. Even the DE stands out, like that is the name of the map, Horizon. Cryptologists have been solving his ciphers by taking famous map layouts of buildings and overlaying it on his grid of text and finding the hidden message. I don't know if we're gonna have to go to that extent, but it's something he does. He seems to like to create patterns in his block of text, and then you find the solve. So that's going to be really tough if that's what we have to do, and I can see why it would be impossible. John Dee is known for doing Wawel ciphers, which is like a cipher wheel. He's also known for doing grill ciphers. That's where you lay a revealing sheet over the grid, and it's got the cutouts, and it shows you what the hidden message is. Again, we're in the very beginning stages of this, so we're still trying a lot of stuff. We have found some interesting things when recharting the letters, but there's nothing conclusive yet. We've definitely been trying the acrostic method, and with that method you can do all kinds of stuff. You can take the first letter, the last letter, middle letters, words. There's all kinds of options, but yeah, we've not come up with anything coherent yet. One thing I never understood, but it kind of makes sense to me now, is when I talked to the guy that interviewed Jason about the impossible Easter egg. At the end of the interview, I said, do you remember anything else that he said that wasn't on camera about this? He said, yeah, I remember. At the very end, I was like, are you sure you want to say this? This is a pretty bold statement. And Jason said, yes, let's see if they can find it.
Because I was like, oh, that's that. It was like, I remember after, I was like, oh, that's a bold thing to say at the end of the video. He's like, yeah, I'm saying it.
That's so cool.
He's like, let's see if they could find it. I was like, okay.
I always wondered, like, what is he talking about? Like, why would this be so hard to find? Well, these books kind of are that. Like, we have found possibly the cipher, but now we got to break it. And it was pretty hard to find if we're on the right track. There are some really good videos about John Dee and how he does his ciphers. I'll have those videos linked down in the description. But if you watch that, you realize, yeah, we are dealing with something pretty complicated if this is what it is. There was just too much coincidence for us to turn away and say this isn't something and something to address. So here we are presenting it. See what you guys think about it. Definitely let me know in the comments down below, and we'll see you guys next video.